David came especially for today to be part of the sevenfold plan of being out with the Way of Life campaigns. And I know he actively uses the Way of Life, and he, along with Luke Shrub-Sol and others, set up, along with David Bishop, whom we're going to hear from shortly, set up in Mona Vale in Sydney, a regular Way of Life campaign every fortnight. And they're very, very, I won't say religious, we'll say they are dutiful in going out. And if you know anyone who's in Mona Vale or any churches in Mona Vale in Sydney, please let's encourage people to get along to meet with David. If you want to contact David after this, I'll have his details, and I'm sure he'll appreciate my passing yours on to him for you. So thank you everyone for that. Now we're going to introduce David Bishop. Now, before David actually joins us, a brief introduction. David is a finance manager. He's a financial officer working in a contractual situation. I think he's been a CFO in other contexts. He has a wife and 2 children, and he has been actively involved at Life Source Christian Church in Sydney for quite some time. His father was quite a concerted evangelist, and David, following in his father's footsteps, has been active in sharing the gospel with people for many years. But when he came across the Way of Life idea, he saw its possibilities immediately, and because of David's influence, within 1 week where we had 5 people turn up to the Way of Life campaign, within the next fortnight we had 12, and then we had 20, and he caught the vision that God gave him to extend the work of the Way of Life campaigns around Sydney, and he'll tell you the rest of the story. So let's hear it for David Bishop.
What we've done in Sydney is we usually choose a region, okay, that many churches can gravitate to. So what we've done there is we don't just do training in a church and then start an outreach in the local area, like the local shops and this sort of thing. We choose a major regional area that people can gravitate towards. Okay, so some examples there is obviously Bankstown. We had some training in a church in Revesby. We didn't just start the outreach in the local shops. We started in Bankstown, which is a major regional centre. The reason why we started it there is because churches around that area can see that as a major area, so they can commit to it. That's not just a local area for another local church, but it's a major regional area. Okay, so that's the focus we've had with the Northern Beaches as well, with David's church, with Hornsby, and Chatswood Mall and Parramatta. We've just started a new Parramatta outreach. Okay, so the leaders that we look for, obviously leaders who are faithful, available and teachable, who are committed to our, the 3 Ps and, the vision of our movement, which is embedding soul winners in churches. Can anyone remind me what the 3 Ps are? And parent. Yep, that's it. Yep. So we find leaders who are committed to that. Okay. Obviously, we train outreaches and how the people who turn up and how to use the presentation. Okay. So we either do that through 2 models, obviously through Tony speaking at a church and then having a training session after that, or if the church is going a bit slow, or they've got to find time to fit it into their program and this sort of thing. What we do is we have a cafe meetup style model where we'll just get interested people along, including a potential leader for later on, and we'll train them up and then we'll go out and outreach straight away. Okay, so that's worked really well in, obviously it's worked really well in, Mona Vale and Bankstown, and now we're doing that in Parramatta. And the idea is there as well, as we get out there, we start the outreach, and that gives us some momentum, and then the local pastors and the local people around that see that we're serious, okay, so they see that we're serious, and so they'll come along the next time and get involved with that. Okay, so and obviously we obviously want this thing to multiply, so it's about training leaders to train others. Okay, so we don't just want to just start outreaches by addition. We want to start outreaches and train people in that outreach to then train others, so that the coordinator can leave and start other outreaches, but the leader in that group can train new people who come along. Okay, and eventually, hopefully, that leader can become a coordinator themselves, who can, he set up that group's going well, he can go out and start other outreach groups in other regional areas of Sydney. Okay, so because the vision...
You've got Hornsby.
Yes.
Bankstown.
Yes.
Maida Vale.
Yes.
Chatswood is really part of your orbit as well, even though it's run by a local church.
Yep.
You've got Epping. And soon I'll be seeing a pastor this coming week about Brighton Le Sands and that area. And you've got Parramatta. So there's 7 groups that you've actually initiated.
Yeah, so, and look, as per the train for trainers process, it's not about just starting new outreaches by addition, or even multiplying individuals. Like, the outreach leader, trains up people, and they in turn, bring along their friends from church, or win people for Christ out in the street, or win their friends and bring them to the outreach, so that one outreach grows. It's about multiplying groups and multiplying outreaches, because then you're effectively multiplying up outreaches, you're multiplying leaders of those outreaches, so they get ownership. Ownership's an extremely powerful concept. They get ownership of their outreach, and then they can go and train up other coordinators who can start other groups as well. So as per the trainers thing, it's not about multiplying individuals, folding them into the existing group. It's about mentoring. It's about starting new groups who can then foster new leaders. Because when you've got a new group, you've got a new leader, he can feel ownership of that, and he can creatively come up with ideas to grow his outreach, and then start outreaches around that sort of thing. Okay, so also you're constantly trying to give leaders vision as well, and try to mentor them as well. Some of our outreach leaders, I'm trying to regularly mention to them. Look, this is my personal vision, is to have outreaches in every major region of Sydney. Training up soul winners. Giving Christians a chance to come along in those regular outreaches and get practiced at sharing the gospel and practiced at sharing apologetics, so that they can then tell the people they already have relationships with that it's much easier to start a discipleship relation or spiritual parenting relationship with. Okay, so we want more people coming along to outreaches, so we want more outreaches. Okay, so I'd love to see outreaches in every major region in Sydney, so that's my vision. So I'm trying to impart this to the existing outreach leaders, and also try to give them a vision as well of starting more outreaches in their region. Okay, and so look, we're not doing it completely yet, but we are getting there. Okay, so I'll just mention some other things here. Look, I think that's probably about all, and I think that's maybe all we've got time for. Okay, now Tony's just stepped out of the room, so look, is there any questions on that? Any questions on what we've done in Sydney? Yep.
How many people do you ideally like to have in each group, roughly?
Look, probably, the number that comes to mind is probably 10 people, because even when you've got a really premium outreach area like Bankstown or different areas, when you have more than 10 people, that's 5 different teams of 2. They start to, they start to ask the same people on any given day whether they want to go through the presentation. Yeah. So, and usually that number of people, you'll have a leader come out of that, or usually we want to start a new outreach around a leader that we've nominated. But out of 10 people, a leader will come, and you'll be able to start another outreach elsewhere. Yeah.
Do you vary? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Do you vary the locations within, and maybe Bankstown, I missed it, within each campaign every, say, fortnight, or however regularly you go out, say, Bankstown? So how often would you vary the location, so that you're not targeting the same people?
We always keep a consistent location. just so people, they get that consistency. They know we're outreaching at that particular location, always on the first and third Saturdays. So they can come at a regular place and that sort of thing. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And usually the regions we choose are premium places. They've got different avenues of areas where people are milling around and sitting down. You can go and talk to. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
David, what's your comment on what's happening in Sydney as far as the people who pray the sinner's prayer are then willing to be discipled and are open to further engagement with us as the soul winner?
Yeah, so look, when I train people, I always say to them, look, always give people who say the sinner's prayer the best opportunity to, enter into a spiritual parenting relationship with you. So send them correspondence and give them a call and invite them to church and that sort of thing. But our experience is, look, it is very low. And I think one of the reasons for that is, look, we're always open to improvements, and I think we always need to improve. And I think that's something the Holy Spirit can help us with. But at the end of the day, when you're speaking to someone on the street, you don't have a relationship with them. So it's very hard to just instantly start up a spiritual parenting relationship with people. Look, it has happened, and it does happen. And I've got a guy I'm discipling at the moment, just one guy.
Yeah.
But the way I try to motivate people to get involved in this movement is, I say, the real outcome here is giving an outreach where Christians can regularly come along, where they can practice sharing their faith, where they can practice giving apologetics at the end of the presentation, not in the middle, because you've got to stick to the presentation, and get really excited by seeing the Holy Spirit work through people saying sinners' prayers. And then they get excited about that. It becomes more natural to share their faith. And then they go and share their faith with their friends, their family, and their colleagues, and they can see those people say the sinner's prayer as well. But it's much easier to enter into a parenting relationship with those people because they've already got a relationship with them. Yeah. So the true outcome here, when I'm trying to motivate people to join campaigns or get involved or come to training, is you'll be able to practice. You'll see the Holy Spirit work. You'll be able to, you'll give every opportunity to people who say the sinner's prayer to be followed up and parent them spiritually. But the real outcome is being able to apply that in your family and friends and your colleagues who you already have a relationship with. It's very easy. It's much easier to get into a spiritual parenting relationship and bring them to church. Yeah.
Two questions really. Firstly, when you're looking at growing into a regional base, is it via your network, or is it because you've been given a contact via Tony or others in a particular church? And secondly, is there any particular aim or desire to have a younger generation of people coming through? Because I noticed that our general age is almost retirement age.
Yeah.
So is there a deliberate intention to try to get a younger audience engaged here?
Perhaps I can comment on that.
Look, I'll comment first. Look, I've said this to Tony before. Look, my initial reaction is actually to trend towards baby boomers, because people in my generation or people with younger families have got no time at all. So I think, look, I look around this room and see the generation of God. I think that's the best generation, because it's baby boomers. The children have left home. They've got more time on their hands. They're financially secure, so they've got much more capacity to get out there and outreach and build movements and that sort of thing. So yes, younger people respond better on the street, but in terms of building outreaches, building a movement, I think baby boomers are the ones to focus on. Yeah.
How much time are you spending a week with your leaders, and overall, sort of how much of a commitment is it your time?
So I like to keep it. I have to keep it pretty sustainable, because I've got a young family and my wife's studying full time and I work full time. So I only go on an outreach once every 2 weeks, but I always make sure that when I'm going on an outreach, I'm training up a new leader or so on. during the week, every night of the week, I'll be making phone calls to, to get pastors or get new contacts involved. I'll make about maybe two phone calls a night to get new contacts involved in outreach and try to build up outreaches. And look, probably 25% of those calls are to existing leaders to see what they're up to, see how I can encourage them and how to build their outreach, how to build their ministry. Yeah.
When you're talking about inviting them for pastors for outreach and there's 2 phone calls a night, are you talking about campaigns or are you talking about training, or what are you talking about with outreaches?
Yeah, both really. Look, mainly new pastors and new contacts. You want to obviously invite them along to training, but most of the training we do is in the cafe meetup model, where we go to the cafe, train people up for the first hour, and then go out and do outreach. And we do exactly the same thing the week after, and the week after if required. Yeah, and look, because we're dealing with volunteers, people come and go, and you've just got to roll with it. And you're just going to do the best you can.
We're getting out of time.
Yep. Okay. Thanks very much. That'll do.
Yeah, what about
Oh, that's okay. Yep.
David, once again, for all the preparation put into this, there are things that he's brought to light that I actually haven't even considered. So obviously we're going to do some more digging in here, David, to your presentation. And
have a copy of that?
yeah, I'm sure we can arrange that. Yeah, I'll get that from David and we'll pass it on to you. So let's give David a hand again.